The signal from nowhere. The distress beacon appeared on Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen's monitor at 0347 hours, and it made no sense whatsoever. "Commander, we're picking up a signal," Ensign Marcus called from the communications station aboard the UNSC Horizon's Edge. His voice carried that particular tension that came from finding something that shouldn't exist. Sarah crossed the bridge in 4 strides, her coffee forgotten on the captain's chair. The holographic display shimmered to life, revealing a pulsing red beacon approximately 40,000 kilometers off their starboard bow. "That's impossible," she muttered. "There's nothing out here. We're 3 weeks from the nearest colony." "Running identification protocols now," Marcus said, his fingers dancing across the translucent interface. "Signal is old. Really old. Pre-expansion era, maybe earlier." The Horizon's Edge was a survey vessel, designed for deep space mapping missions in the outer reaches of human-controlled space. They'd been charting asteroid fields and cataloging mineral deposits for 6 months without encountering anything more exciting than a few ice comets. This was different. "Can you clean up the signal?" Sarah asked. Marcus worked in silence for several minutes. The bridge crew gathered around, drawn by curiosity. Even Chief Engineer Rodriguez emerged from the engine room, wiping grease from her hands. "Got it," Marcus said finally. "It's a standard emergency frequency, but the encoding is ancient. Had to dig through 40 years of protocol updates to find the decoder." "Play it," Sarah ordered. Static filled the bridge, then a voice emerged. "Human. Male. Terrified. This is Captain James Holland of the exploration vessel Prometheus. We are stranded. Repeat, we are stranded. Our fold drive is damaged beyond repair. Life support is failing. If anyone receives this message, please, we have families. We have children on board. Coordinates attached. Please." The message ended. The bridge fell silent. "Prometheus?" Rodriguez said quietly. "That ship disappeared 73 years ago. They were part of the first wave of deep space exploration. Everyone assumed they hit a spatial anomaly." Sarah's mind raced. 73 years. The entire crew would be long dead. This had to be an echo, some strange radio phenomenon bouncing signals across space. "Ensign, pull up the coordinates from that message." "Already on it, Commander." Marcus hesitated. "They match our current location almost exactly. The ship should be right here. Scan the area. Full spectrum. I want to know if there's even a debris field." The sensor officer, Lieutenant Park, bent over her console. "Scanning now. This might take a few minutes with the interference from the asteroid field." Sarah waited, her instincts screaming that something was wrong. Space was vast and empty, but it wasn't random. Ships didn't just vanish without a trace, and distress beacons didn't broadcast for 7 decades. "Commander," Park said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've got something. Dead ahead, inside the asteroid cluster. It's a ship. Intact." "That's impossible," Rodriguez said. "Nothing survives that long in deep space without maintenance. Micrometeorites alone would shred the hull." "I'm looking at it right now," Park insisted. "Hull integrity appears solid. No power signatures, no heat. It's just, sitting there." Sarah made her decision. "Helm, take us in. Slow approach. Rodriguez, prep a boarding team. Full environmental suits and emergency equipment." "You're going over there?" Rodriguez asked. "Someone has to." Sarah moved toward the ready room. That message said there were children on board. Even if it's 73 years too late, those people deserve to be brought home. 20 minutes later, Sarah stood in the airlock with Rodriguez and 2 security officers. Through the viewport, the Prometheus hung in space like a ghost. It was smaller than modern vessels, its design outdated but unmistakable. The hull bore scorch marks and micrometeorite damage, but structurally it appeared sound. Docking clamps engaged, the pilot announced over their comms. "You're clear to board." The airlock hissed open. Sarah's helmet light cut through the darkness of the Prometheus's corridor. Emergency lighting flickered weakly, drawing power from some backup system that refused to die. "Life support is gone," Rodriguez reported, checking her scanner. "Atmosphere is frozen. Temperature is -200 degrees." They moved through the ship in silence, their boots magnetized to the deck. Personal belongings floated in the zero-gravity, photographs, a child's toy, a coffee mug with "Galaxy's Best Dad" printed on the side. "This way," Sarah said, following the corridor toward the bridge. "We need to access the ship's logs." That's when they heard it. A sound that shouldn't exist. A rhythmic tapping, metal on metal, coming from somewhere deeper in the ship. Rodriguez grabbed Sarah's arm. "Tell me you heard that." "I heard it." Sarah's pulse hammered in her ears. "Someone's alive in here." The frozen crew. The tapping grew louder as Sarah and her team moved deeper into the Prometheus. Each metallic clang echoed through the frozen corridors, regular as a heartbeat, impossibly deliberate. "That's not random," Security Officer Daniels said, his voice tight over the comm, "someone's signaling." Sarah's rational mind fought against what her ears told her. 73 years without power, without heat, without air. Nothing human could survive that. Nothing biological could survive that. "Stay sharp," she ordered, pushing forward. "Rodriguez, keep scanning for life signs." "Still nothing," Rodriguez replied, her eyes fixed on her handheld scanner. "Whatever's making that noise, it's not registering as alive." They rounded a corner and stopped. The corridor ahead was different. While the rest of the ship showed signs of age and neglect, this section gleamed. Ice crystals covered every surface, transformed by decades of absolute cold into something beautiful and terrible. The walls sparkled in their helmet lights like a cathedral made of diamonds. The tapping stopped. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. In the silence, she could hear only the sound of her own breathing and the whisper of her suit's life support systems. "Commander," Park's voice crackled over the radio from the horizon's edge. "We're detecting a power surge on the Prometheus. Something just activated." Before Sarah could respond, lights flickered to life along the corridor. Emergency strips glowed pale blue, casting long shadows. Then came a sound that made her blood freeze, the groan of metal expanding, the hiss of atmospheric processors attempting to restart after 7 decades of silence. "The ship's waking up," Rodriguez whispered. A door ahead of them unsealed with a sharp crack. Frost exploded into glittering clouds as pressure equalized. Through the mist, Sarah saw movement. A figure stood in the doorway. Human-shaped, wearing an old-style environmental suit covered in frost. The helmet's faceplate was dark, obscured by ice. The figure raised one hand slowly and tapped 3 times against the wall. Tap. 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 "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the UNSC Horizon's Edge," Sarah said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Identify yourself." The figure didn't respond. Instead, it turned and moved deeper into the ship with jerky, uncertain movements, like someone learning to walk again after a long sleep. "Should we follow?" Daniels asked. Sarah made the decision instantly. Yes. But weapons ready. Something's very wrong here. They followed the figure through a maze of corridors, past crew quarters where frozen belongings drifted in zero gravity, past a galley where meals sat half-eaten, flash-frozen in an instant. The figure never looked back, never acknowledged them, just kept moving with that strange, stuttering gait. Finally, they reached the medical bay. The doors stood open. Inside, Sarah saw something that would haunt her for the rest of her life. Cryopods. Dozens of them, arranged in neat rows. And every single one was active, its status lights glowing green. Impossible, Rodriguez breathed. These pods are 73 years old. The power cells alone should have failed decades ago. The figure who had led them here stopped beside one of the pods and tapped the transparent surface 3 times. Sarah approached slowly, her light illuminating the pod's interior. A man floated inside, suspended in cryogenic gel. His eyes were closed, his face peaceful. According to the pod's display, his vital signs were stable. Alive. They're all alive, Daniels said, moving between the rows. Every single pod is occupied and functional. Sarah's mind reeled. How many? 47, Rodriguez reported, her scanner working overtime. 32 adults, 15 children. All in perfect stasis. The figure in the frost-covered suit moved to a central console and began pressing buttons with deliberate precision. A holographic display flickered to life, showing ship's logs. Captain Holland's face appeared, haggard and exhausted. Final log entry, Captain James Holland, Day 73 of our crisis. The fold drive explosion damaged more than we thought. Something in the reactor is leaking. Radiation levels are spiking across the ship. We have maybe 6 hours before everyone dies. The log fast-forwarded. Holland's face reappeared, this time with grim determination. We've made a decision. The cryopods were meant for emergency use only, but this qualifies. We're putting everyone into stasis, families first, then essential crew. I'll go last, after I've set the distress beacon and locked down the ship's systems. Another jump. Holland looked directly at the camera. If you're watching this, then someone found us. Thank God. The pods are set to maintain indefinitely using a rotating power system I rigged. It'll drain the ship's batteries, but keep everyone alive. I've also programmed a companion. An AI construct uploaded into the ship's maintenance systems. If anyone boards, it'll guide them here. The hologram faded. Sarah turned to look at the frost-covered figure. You're the AI. The companion Holland mentioned. The figure nodded slowly. It raised both hands and began tapping out a message in Morse code against its suit. Sarah's translator picked it up. Waited. Alone. 73 years. You came. Thank you. Rodriguez's voice cracked with emotion. It kept them alive. All this time. Alone in the dark. Sarah felt tears threatening behind her eyes. Can we wake them? The AI tapped again. Not here. Need medical facility. Ship failing. Hurry. Commander Chen, Park's urgent voice burst over the radio. You need to get out of there. The Prometheus's reactor is destabilizing. I'm reading massive power fluctuations. You have maybe 30 minutes before it goes critical. Sarah's training kicked in. Rodriguez, can we transport these pods to our ship? The clamping mechanisms are standardized. We can move them, but 30 minutes. Then we move fast. Daniels, get back to the horizon and prep the cargo bay. Rodriguez, you're with me. We start with the children's pods. The AI moved to help, its frozen suit creaking with each motion. Together, they began the desperate race against time, hauling cryopods through frozen corridors, fighting against ancient systems that were finally giving up their long vigil. Awakening. 28 minutes. That's how long it took to move 47 cryopods across the docking umbilical and into the horizon's edge's cargo bay. 28 minutes of controlled chaos, of hauling 1,000-pound pods through narrow corridors, of the AI in its frozen suit working tirelessly alongside them, never stopping, never slowing. Sarah carried the last child herself, a girl no older than 8 according to the pod's display. Her name tag read Emma Holland. The captain's daughter. That's the last one, Sarah gasped, muscles burning as she secured the pod. Helm, disengage docking clamps and get us clear. Maximum thrust. The horizon's edge shuddered as it pulled away from the Prometheus. Through the cargo bay viewport, Sarah watched the ancient ship recede into the asteroid field. The AI had refused to leave, tapping out its final message before the umbilical disconnected. My purpose complete. Let me rest. 30 seconds later, the Prometheus exploded. Not violently, but with a quiet brilliance, its reactor finally surrendering after 73 years of borrowed time. Debris scattered across space like ashes on the wind. It saved them, Rodriguez said quietly beside Sarah. All those years. It never gave up. Sarah nodded, unable to speak. They stood in silence, honoring the AI that had kept vigil in the darkness, alone but never abandoning its duty. Commander, Ensign Marcus called from the bridge. Medical team is requesting your presence. They're preparing to begin revival procedures. The medical bay had been transformed into a makeshift revival center. Dr. Yuki Sato, the ship's chief medical officer, moved between monitoring stations with practiced efficiency. We'll start with Captain Holland, Dr. Sato explained. The revival process takes approximately 4 hours. His pod is the oldest, and frankly, I'm amazed the stasis held this long. The technology is primitive by our standards, but whoever rigged that power system was a genius. Sarah watched through the observation window as the medical team began the delicate process. Warming the body too quickly would cause cellular damage. Too slowly, and the patient might never wake. It was a dance between life and death that required absolute precision. 3 hours and 47 minutes later, Captain James Holland opened his eyes. His confusion was immediate and total. Restraints held him gently as his body remembered how to breathe, how to move, how to be alive. Dr. Sato stood beside him, speaking in calm, measured tones. Captain Holland, my name is Dr. Sato. You're safe. You're aboard the UNSC vessel Horizon's Edge. We found your ship and rescued everyone in cryostasis. Holland's eyes darted around the room, taking in technology that would have been science fiction in his time. Everyone. His voice was barely a whisper, rough from disuse. My daughter. Emma. Is she safe? Sarah said, stepping into his line of sight. All 47 survivors are safe. We're beginning revival procedures now. Tears streamed down Holland's weathered face. How long? Sarah hesitated. There was no easy way to say it. 73 years, Captain. The words hit him like a physical blow. His breathing quickened, and the monitors shrieked warnings. Dr. Sato moved quickly, administering a mild sedative. 73 years, Holland repeated, his voice hollow. My wife. My parents. Everyone we knew. I'm sorry, Sarah said, and meant it with every fiber of her being. But your daughter survived. Your crew survived. The AI you created kept them alive all this time. The companion. Holland's eyes focused on something far away. I uploaded my own neural patterns into it. Gave it my memories, my determination. I thought if I couldn't keep them safe myself, maybe a part of me could. Over the next 2 days, the Horizon's Edge became a vessel of miracles. One by one, the survivors woke to a future they'd never imagined. Children who'd gone to sleep in 2251 woke in 2324. Husbands and wives, separated from loved ones who'd aged and died, found comfort in each other. Sarah stood in the observation lounge with Captain Holland, watching his daughter play with other children in the recreation area. Emma had adjusted better than most, her young mind accepting the impossible with the resilience of childhood. What happens to us now? Holland asked. We're relics from another time. Our skills are outdated. Our families are gone. We don't even exist in any database anymore. Sarah had spent considerable time thinking about this. You do exist, Captain. You and your crew are legends. The disappearance of the Prometheus changed how we approach deep space exploration. New safety protocols, better emergency systems, mandatory AI companions on all survey vessels. You made space safer for everyone who came after. We failed, Holland said bitterly. We got stranded and had to be rescued. You didn't fail. Sarah's voice was firm. You faced an impossible situation and found a way to save everyone. You built a system that kept 47 people alive for 73 years. That's not failure, Captain. That's heroism. Holland was quiet for a long moment, watching his daughter laugh. What will we do? Whatever you choose, Sarah said. The United Nations Space Command has already approved full citizenship and support for all survivors. Educational programs, job training, counseling. Some of your crew have already expressed interest in joining the Space Force. Others want to settle on colonies. The galaxy is bigger now than when you left, but there's room for everyone. And you? Holland asked. What do you get out of this? Sarah smiled. I get to tell the story of humanity's greatest rescue. I get to show the universe that we don't abandon our own, no matter how much time has passed. And I get to see 47 people get a second chance at life. 3 months later, the Horizon's Edge docked at Unity Station, the largest space station in human-controlled space. News crews from every major network waited to document the arrival of the Prometheus survivors. Sarah stood at the airlock with Captain Holland and his daughter. Emma clutched a small stuffed bear that had been frozen with her all those years ago. Ready? Sarah asked. Holland squeezed his daughter's hand. No. But we're doing it anyway. The airlock opened to a thunderous roar. Thousands of people had gathered to welcome them home. Signs reading, "Welcome back," and "Heroes never die," filled the observation deck. Music played, children cheered, and grown adults wept openly. As Sarah watched the survivors step into their new future, she thought about the AI companion who'd kept vigil in the darkness. It had been alone for 73 years, maintaining systems, fighting entropy, refusing to give up on the people it was created to protect. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't its technology or its weapons. It was this, the refusal to abandon hope, the determination to save even one life, the willingness to wait 73 years for a chance at rescue. Captain Holland turned back to Sarah one last time before disappearing into the crowd. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. The gratitude in his eyes said everything. Sarah returned to the Horizon's Edge and stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, other ships waited to be found. Other voices called out into the darkness, hoping someone would answer. And humanity would be listening. Always listening. Because that's what they did. They brought their people home.